Are we becoming a nation of school marms, hall monitors, busybodies, people that are always saying they want to speak to the manager? I think the answer, unfortunately, is yes, and we have some incidents that would certainly go in the evidence pile for that thesis. But to walk us through some of this and to talk to us what he sees going on here is my friend Chadwick Moore, who joins us now. He's going to talk to us about the biggest single viral video of the weekend. He is a writer for Spectator USA. Chadwick, good sir, good to have you.
Hey, Mr. Sexton, how you doing?
I'm good, Chadwick. So tell me this, my friend. Well, actually, let's first start. I want people to hear. No. You tell us the background story to the incident in Central Park here in Manhattan, not far at all from where I am right now. And then I'll play the audio so everybody can hear it. But what happened? What's with this viral video that everyone's calling kind of the ultimate Karen, and in fact saying much uglier stuff than that too? But what happened?
It is the ultimate Karen. It's not just one Karen. It's a story of a collusion of Karens, and it just gets even deeper and uglier. What happened is there is this woman apparently with her dog off the leash in Central Park in an area called the Rambles, which is sort of a kind of bucolic, wooded area of Central Park. And a man comes up who says he's a bird watcher and tells her to put her dog on a leash, and some sort of confrontation ensues. And then he pulls out his camera and starts recording her reaction. So this man also then put on Facebook, he sort of described what happened before he took his camera out, in which they got into a fight over the dog not being on a leash. And then he said something like, well, I'm just going to have to take things into my own hands, and called the dog over to him and reached into his pocket for dog treats, which he said that he carries around with him for just this reason. And then she gets on the phone to call the police, and she's really unhinged and shaking, and she grabs her dog, who's now on the leash. The dog looks like it's choking. And then she says, I'm going to tell the police that an African-American man just threatened me, which she says twice. She made it racial for some reason, which is the main reason why this has now gone viral. And she has now since been, I don't know if she's fired yet, but she was put on leave from her job. She worked in finance, I believe. And she had to voluntarily give up her dog to the shelter where she rescued it from. And then, of course, all that happened because the bunch of Karens on Twitter found out her identity. They mobbed her employer, and then they had to respond. So it's really just this sort of shaming, this public shaming, this cancel culture, this pull out your cell phone and start recording a stranger every time you get into a bad interaction with them, and hope that it ruins their life. We've been in this state as a country for many years now. There was a woman named Justine Sacco, if you recall that case.
I do. That was on the plane, right? That was the tweet that ruined her life.
Right. That was the woman who was flying to South Africa and had a layover in London and said on Twitter, "Going to South Africa, hope I don't get AIDS. Just kidding, I'm white." And then she lands 8 hours later or whatever, and she's the number one trending topic in the world. And, her excuse was she's making a joke about like her white privilege and blah, blah, blah. But of course, this mob had jumped on her. That was really kind of the first big case of this culture, and it hasn't disappeared.
Yeah. So let's play for the audience, the audio, and those who are watching on Pluto TV can see the video of this incident in the park. Woman had her dog off. This is what we're told, at least. Woman had her dog off the leash in advance of the video being made. But here's how this exchange went. Producer Mark, play it.
I don't have this.
Oh, I'm sorry. He doesn't have this. So that means that we've just described it very in detail, which is a good thing because now we can at least talk more about it. So she freaks out. I'm sorry that I called that. She freaks out. And she says, hey, she calls the police. She mentions an African-American man is threatening me twice. Now, I'm going to say this. Clearly, Chadwick, bizarre, weirdly racist thing for her to say under the circumstances. Unacceptable. Fair enough. I also would say, as somebody who has been entrusted with my family dog for 2 months, that if a stranger of any kind, any background, doesn't matter, a stranger called my dog over in any kind of a threatening fashion and was reaching into his pocket to feed it without my permission or consent, things would actually escalate and get very ugly very quickly. I don't know who this person is. I don't know what they're feeding. Maybe they're feeding my dog rat poison, right? I don't know, especially when you've had a tense encounter. So to your point about how, that's a weird move. Does not justify her weird moves after it. But I feel like that hasn't gotten any. As somebody who's got a dog and as someone who loves dogs, I don't think you call over someone else's dog and say, just wait till you see what I'm going to do to it. That's very weird.
Yeah, it was really strange, really, really threatening. And you're right that the fact she brought race into it was just bizarre. But what did she expect that if she says African-American, then a SWAT team's going to parachute in, that's really going to get the cops coming?
This is where it gets ugly, where it gets ugly on her part, is it seems like she's saying, oh, I'm being threatened by an African-American man, as if the NYPD then is going to, deploy, smoke grenades and the SWAT team right away. I mean, it was ugly. That's ugly. That was the part of it where where the public. But I got to say, the part before that, it's not like this guy was minding his own business and being normal. Like, what he did was weird too. But then to your point also about the cancel culture part of this woman is now, at least across the United States, famous. She will be known on the internet probably forever for this one incident.
Life is ruined.
Not in a good way.
The weirdly racist stuff is so uncomfortable and awful. I'm going to go out on a limb here. I don't know for sure, but I'm going to imagine that maybe she cried on election night when Hillary lost. I'm going to think that maybe she's not a big Republican.
Yep.
It's I'm just going to guess that, Manhattan woman, career woman out with her dog, so it's really strange. But the bigger picture is who knows what she meant by that? If she was maybe, I don't know, but it's almost, I think the bigger story is still this cancel culture and just this shame. There are no good people in this story, and it's but one person's life has been ruined. And I imagine another one is getting all sorts of sympathy because of the racist attack from a white woman. And it's just such an ugly culture. And just when you think that it might kind of be going away, something like this happens and we're reminded that this is still very much where we live, I imagine that journalism professors across the country are telling their students, that they should be recording everything. Always have your phone out. Always be trying to catch someone doing something. You've got this device in your pocket that is very powerful, and indeed it is very powerful. This woman's life is now destroyed all because of this encounter, which we didn't even see the entire interaction. And the man saying that he carries dog treats around just for this specific kind of what did he plan to do? I don't understand. And so you're in the park just to catch people who don't have their dogs on leashes. It's just really
if someone walks around looking for people that have their dog off the leash so they can call them away from you with a dog treat, that's a weirdo move, and that would unnerve me. That's a strange, think of it this way. If your kid ran too far ahead of you in the park and someone was standing there with an ice cream sandwich saying, oh, looks like I'm in charge of the kid now, everybody would understandably completely freak out. I know this is a dog, not a human being we're talking about, but it's it's still a weird move, right? You wouldn't give someone's kid something because they got too far ahead of the mom or the dad. You wouldn't give them a treat without asking the parent. You don't feed someone's dog and bring them away from the owner. That's not cool at all. So I'm just saying. But again, the moment you start acting like a racist weirdo as the woman did, now your life is basically in a very tough spot. But I want to get to the other, and this got less attention, but I thought in some ways, there's a whole other layer. We're speaking to Chadwick Moore. He is a columnist for Spectator USA, lives in Brooklyn. He's like me. He's here in New York. But Chadwick, this Canadian broadcast television, on the news, they're doing some interviews about mask wearing. And here's what ended up happening. A young guy goes up to a woman who's being interviewed and, gives her a big kiss on Canadian broadcast TV as they're talking about mask wearing and COVID. Here's how that went. Play 16.
I feel as if masks are not 100% important. I feel as if you want to... Sorry to interrupt.
A spontaneous kiss from someone that she doesn't know.
Oh my God. No, I met him for a second with my dog. That's insane.
Are you all right?
Yeah, he's so hot.
Okay. I mean, that's all he really did. So Chadwick, I love this because any normal person would go, hey, they had talked a little bit before. She's in this interview. This guy makes a move. And in case it's not clear enough, I mean, look, if a woman doesn't want to kiss you, there's a whole lot of ways that, she can make that clear. But she's like blushing and goes, ooh, he's hot. Okay, that is not the response of somebody who feels violated or, oh, this is terrible. And immediately, because in Canada, they're all, we're all like male feminists, like the prime minister, at least the libs in Canada. I love my conservative Canadians, but the libs in Canada have lost their minds with Trudeau, the male feminist. A male feminist with a history of wearing blackface, I would note. But here and everyone's just like okay with this for some reason, or not okay with it, but they move past it so quickly. And here it is, and you know what? They start talking about sexual assault, Chadwick, right away. Right, that's the leap they make.
Because it drives them insane how incredibly charming and sweet it was, and the girl is so smitten afterwards. And I mean, wow, it's also political right now, isn't it? Because masks have become such a political hot button issue. This whole idea of being afraid of your neighbor and staying away from strangers, and everyone's going to get you sick. And here you have a guy coming up and just kissing a relative stranger, and it was really sweet and charming. I think that people really needed to see that. I think that's why it's also gone viral. We're so sick of being isolated and being told that our neighbors are going to kill us with some invisible bug. And yet, of course, the left has to jump on this idea about consent. And, well, maybe this just proved this woman appears to be completely swept off her feet and utterly charmed. And maybe that just proves this the entire puritanical consent culture where you need a 6-page signed document before you hold someone's hand is people are over it. And people like these kind of more traditional sort of valiant acts, these very sort of romantic spur of the moment acts. And, that's it makes it a nicer place for all of us.
I also, the very serious broadcaster who came up later on and, doing the whole sort of broadcaster being super intense thing on CTV. Not only was there immediately, oh, are you okay? Good heavens, a guy you think is hot just gave you a kiss. And you're like swooning. She was like swooning. I mean, she was, woo, it was it was really cute. Obviously, any normal person understands this. And also any normal person knows that somebody who's been flirting with someone, and then that person that they think is really attractive comes up and kisses them. This is like people dream about this kind of stuff. It's not a problem. But CTV then goes, Canadian TV then has to do this. Oh, not only are they worried about the consent aspect of it, they're sorry even for airing it on TV. Play 17.
A follow-up on a story that aired last night on CTV News at 11:30. In a story on social distancing, we included an interview with a woman in a park. During the interview, a stranger came up to the woman and kissed her directly on the lips. Our story then focused on the dangers of kissing a stranger on the lips during a pandemic. It was wrong to air this video. The video demonstrated non-consensual behavior and downplayed the fact that what occurred was simply unacceptable and offensive. It does not meet CTV News editorial standards, and we apologize.
Chadwick, this guy is saying it didn't meet our editorial standards. It was unacceptable to air this kiss, clearly airing unacceptable behavior. I mean, they're like, what is wrong with these people? Were none of them ever like in high school or college dating? Have none of them ever like actually enjoyed a moment in life without wondering what the scolds, the Karens on Twitter are going to say?
Exactly. Yeah. And Twitter is such an Twitter is not real life. This is what especially these companies need to realize is that if you have a mob of Karens coming after you on Twitter, that's not real life. The vast majority of people who just watch that probably at home on their television were probably utterly delighted by it. But then, you've got the most, and this is always the case, right? The sort of the very tiny percent of the most unhinged and outraged and unstable people who are typically tend to be left-wing activists grab the microphone and they bully and intimidate these companies and in this case a news organization into clutching their pearls and have to issue an apology, or maybe people inside the news organization, some miserable person in human resources or what have you, some miserable lonely person who wishes that she was that girl. but can't have it. So has to try to ruin everyone else's joy and delight in that sweet little moment.
We a lot of people could use just a little more levity these days, but not on Canadian TV.
Right.
Their news editorial staff.
Right.
Anyway, Chadwick Moore making the nonsensical make sense. That's what he does for us here in the Freedom Hut. Check out his columns at Spectator USA. Follow him at Chadwick Moore on Twitter. Mr. Chadwick, my friend, always a pleasure.
Always a pleasure. Thanks again.
What's going to happen in New Jersey if you can't get more federal dollars?
Yeah, I haven't taken my cues ever from Rick Scott, so I won't start now. But I thought Kevin was reasonable. But on this one, I have to say I'm gonna say time out. This is not abstract. We don't need to do a data crunch. We don't do an analysis. We announced a budget on Friday for the next 4 months, and we had to cut or defer over $5 billion of expenditures, and this includes potentially laying off educators, firefighters, police, EMS, healthcare workers. This is not abstract. This is real. It's not a blue state issue. It's an American issue. It's not a legacy. You guys didn't manage yourselves in the past better. That has nothing to do with this. This is about keeping those very frontline workers in their jobs, doing the heroic work they're doing at our hour of need in the biggest healthcare crisis in the history of our country, the biggest economic crisis in the history of our country. The last thing we need to do is to lay any of those folks off and increase the unemployment rate and underserve our residents. So we need it, and it's not just New Jersey, it's not just blue states, it's American states up and down the country.
Governor of New Jersey, they're saying you got to have a federal bailout for the states, for all these different states. Okay, well, guess what? Here is the opening. Here is what we need to establish. As I've been telling you, that the politics of this need to be taken into account because the left is playing politics with these shutdowns. They're taking too long. They're not looking at the data and the science as much as they pretend to. If you're going to get federal bailout dollars for your state, I think the federal government should say we expect that everyone will. And now I don't know if they're willing to do this. I know the CDC still has a little too much of a grip, even on this White House. It worries me sometimes. Dr. Fauci. Everybody's listening to Fauci. Hey, I think we got to make sure the mitigation efforts are going to be clear going forward. All right, we've heard enough of Fauci. I get it. Wash my hands. And other than that, we don't really know anything. Great. Or wear a mask now. They weren't sure originally. Social distance. That's all we really know. Okay. Maybe if you're going to demand these bailouts from the federal government should, I'm not saying will, step in and say, everyone's open by 4th of July weekend, come hell or high water. That's what should happen. Everyone. Open. Back to normal. How about that? I think federal government's got a lot of leverage here, folks. Might as well use it somehow.
It's time for roll call.
I want to get to all of Team Buck's thoughts in the roll call, but I also want to ask our friend, the one and only producer Mark, how his long weekend was, if he enjoyed watching any particular shows, if Mrs. Mark, a.k.a. Ariel, his wife, made him any delicious treats or meals. Mark, what's going on, man? How was it?
It was a fine weekend. It was nice to have a little extra time away, although I missed you dearly.
Of course.
Yes.
Well, you missed the audience. You don't have to miss me.
When I said you, I didn't mean you.
Yeah,
Buck,
no, you meant the
audience.
collective you. I get it.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. It was good, relaxing, went grocery shopping. That's about it.
What'd you guys make?
What did we make this weekend? We did taco night one day. She made chicken fried rice. My wife did.
Ooh,
that was delicious.
Sounds delicious.
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Snow Princess and I made ginger sesame salmon fillets last night, which was really excellent. And despite my efforts to try and cut back on the excess calories, she also made her chocolate chip cookies gluten-free, which are the best chocolate chip cookies I've ever had of any gluten status of any kind ever. So that was pretty much the highlight of the weekend. Other than that, I don't even think what did I watch this weekend? We're watching a lot of Billions these days. I love that show. You ever watch it?
I've seen. Was that the one with The Rock?
No, that's
that's Ballers.
Ballers.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I get
Also
those
good show.
confused.
Also good show. Better than I thought it would be.
Yeah, I watched the first season, then I just kind of fizzled out on it.
Yeah, that happens to me with shows too. I got to get back into The Americans. I kind of paused out on The Americans after 2 seasons. So that was pretty much it, and went for some long walks. It was 70 degrees yesterday, which was really nice outside. But man, everything, one of my brothers went to try to go to Bear Mountain, that place across the Hudson State Park.
Yes.
And no dice, cannot go, no luck. Lockdown because of too many people. They wouldn't let cars in because they were so packed. It's not exactly what you think of when you talk about a trail walk, right? But no, there are too many people on the trail.
Yeah, they were doing that at beaches too, but I think that happens just even if they weren't doing reduced capacity, that would happen on Memorial Day weekend anyway.
Maybe at beaches, but I feel like Bear Mountain, well, I guess. Anyway, also I don't like to be in places like that when there are too many people. So anyway, it is what it is. So I'm glad you're ready and back in the fight. We got a busy week this week, producer Mark, so bring your A game.
Every week is a busy week, Buck.
That's true. All right, roll call, Facebook.com/Buck Sexton if you want to be a part of it, or you can email us, and producer Mark will sift through and pick some of the most insightful, pithy, eloquent, hilarious emails you send in. teambuck@iheartmedia.com. And if you email in with the subject line, producer Mark is the sexiest man alive, there's a decent chance that that email will make its way into the pile.
I'll probably just laugh at you because that's not true.
Well, I'm just saying there's a good shot it gets in the pile. Brad kicks us off here. Dear Buck, I wrote about a month ago on the status of Alaska during this pandemic, so I thought I'd write back with an update. As of this coming Friday, the state of Alaska is open for business. The mayor of Anchorage has decided to take a little more conservative approach, but bars, restaurants, churches, libraries, and museums are allowed to operate at 100% per the governor's office. As for COVID-19 status, Alaska just went over the 400 mark for positive cases and has held at 10 fatalities since May 6th. It's not hard to tell that things are getting back to some semblance of normalcy just by viewing the traffic on the highways, shields high. Well, Brad, God bless, and I'm so glad that Alaska, a beautiful state. I mean, really one of the most parts of Alaska are some of the most gorgeous places I've ever seen. The natural beauty in Alaska is up there with anything you could find anywhere in the world. But I'm glad that Alaska's back in action. You can get yourself a good steak or burger, and not have to go through all this nonsense. It's amazing when you think about it that the whole state was shut down and only 10 fatalities since May 6th. I don't say this to be glib, but I would be willing to bet that more people have died from falling downstairs or falling in the shower since May 6th than have died from COVID-19. In fact, I think that's probably a pretty safe from accidents. I bet more people have died in the month of May in Alaska from accidents than have died from COVID-19. Although maybe we could not include some of the deep sea fishing stuff like from that show because that stuff looks terrifying. I don't know how people do that.
Yeah,
you ever
the
watch
ice
that
fishing
show? Yeah, the like the crab fishermen guys and all that stuff that they do.
I've seen that. That looks dangerous.
How? Yeah, that's what I mean. That stuff does look dangerous. That stuff looks intense. How much money, producer Mark, I have to pay you to spend? I think they spend like 6 to 8 weeks on some of those ships. Let's say 8 weeks on a crab boat off the in the Bering Sea. How much money, really?
Am I just on the boat, or am I having to work?
No, you're on the deck. You're hocking crabs over the side. You're doing the whole thing.
Oh, there's got to be at least 7 figures in that number.
Oh, that's right. For me, it's a solid 7 figures. Solid. It's probably we're talking like MLB, NBA player for a season kind of money for me to do that. No, so the guys who do it, I know they get well paid. They make 6 figures. Some of them, I believe, for that 8-week haul, which is obviously really, really good money. But They earn every penny, man. I watch those shows and I'm like, oh gosh, I sit there, I'm like eating my warm chicken nuggets and drinking my ginger ale or whatever, and I'm watching these guys covered in my Snuggie, and I'm watching these guys out there in Alaska, with these big crab pots or whatever. I'm like, oh, looks cold, guys. Looks cold. I don't know. It looks like no fun.
Do you actually have a Snuggie?
I mean, I've got a blanket that functions like a Snuggie.
So you have a Snuggie?
No. It's not technically a Snuggie, but it looks like a Snuggie.
I mean, does it have armholes?
No. I have to make the armhole, so
right.
I guess it's just a blanket.
Okay.
But you know what I mean.
Then that's normal.
Yeah, a normal thing. Sheldon, Buck, is it possible for your head to get any bigger? Asked to have a personal meeting with the leader of the free world. All joking aside, congratulations. I'm glad to see the president recognized as one of the bright minds in all of media. A well-earned recognition. So when are you getting your Presidential Medal of Freedom? Quick change of subject. I see all these protests and lawsuits in blue states to open up the economy. Where are all the protests and lawsuits in red states to maintain the lockdown if they think it's so important? Only places I see that argument is in the media, not from the citizens in these red states. Thanks. Well, I think that they also would figure that in red states, the judiciary is less likely to be activist toward left-wing ends. So that's what I think that's probably part of the dynamic that you're establishing here, that you're talking about. Blue states, look, they should be open. This is wrong. Very interesting, today, and maybe I'll get into more of this tomorrow, but there was all this debate over, Sweden, did Sweden do the right thing? Did Sweden do the wrong thing? And people argue about this still. I think Sweden definitely did the right thing, even though there's been, even as of last week, people are saying, but their per capita deaths. The health chief of Norway has said they could have, quote, controlled infection without lockdown. The scientific backing for lockdown was not good enough. And Norway went into lockdown, but the health chief is now saying, no, we didn't have to do that. Someone paying her off. Is that a right-wing conspiracy in Norway? The health chief of Norway is now saying it. And they had very, very, very few deaths per capita from COVID-19. But they're saying that lockdown was not the way to go. Oh, you mean that people now looking at the evidence who are experts are coming to that conclusion? Think about what Fauci would have to say. Would he have to admit, we pushed for lockdowns which weren't necessary, which threw 30 million plus people on out of their jobs, cost the economy trillions of dollars, and also put us all through hell, being locked in our homes, wondering when we're able to see our relatives again, wondering what our future looks like. Are we going to have a future as a country, as an individual? Put us through all that. And now it seems like with very, very weak backing, and weak may be generous, he's never going to, no one would ever, look, I actually don't blame him for this. No one would ever, who's in that position, they'd say, we took the mitigation. We had to do the mitigation. So, this is the virus. It spread. So we wanted to undo the spread. That's what you got. Michael, Buck, so cool to hear you got called in by the big man. Feels like a close friend being recognized for his talents. In the midst of tough times, it feels good to hear some of the big wins for the Freedom Hut. Shields high. Well, Michael, thank you so much. Yeah, it was really appreciated by me. It was great to get a chance to sit down with the president for that long, and really enjoyed talking to him. John, one of my local supermarkets doesn't carry strawberry ice cream, so I need to travel further to get it, or during the pandemic switch to another brand. Is this a conspiracy between you and the Illuminati? No, John. This is just the free market telling you that strawberry ice cream is the ice cream flavor that does not need to exist. Okay? Strawberry ice cream is like the Rhode Island of ice creams. Why isn't Rhode Island just a part of Connecticut or Massachusetts, I ask you? No one has a really good answer for that, do they? Maybe a strawberry swirl in chocolate or vanilla would make sense, but entirely strawberry flavored ice cream? We're civilized people. We don't need such things. So I'm sorry, John, you're on your own with this one. All right, roll call continuing here. We have Dave who writes in, congrats on the one-on-one chat with the president. Obvious he chooses to surround himself with thoughtful, upstanding people. It's a shame he is so unfairly smeared. If more people took the time to listen to voices like yours and your listeners, this would be a much more unified country. As an early listener, I'm always happy to follow your progress and success. It's a reminder that good things happen to good people who work hard. That's what this country needs. Keep up the good work as usual. Thank you so much, Dave. I really do appreciate that. That's very kind. It's like the nicest thing anyone said all day today. Or I will hear all day. So really, really kind of you. And Mark and I, it is not an exaggeration to say we bust our butts to do this show every day and have it at the quality that it is. And we're very pleased that it's reflected in the growth of the show and the ratings and in so many new big markets in the last year to 18 months that have picked us up. We've got great stations in San Diego and in Baltimore and in Austin, Texas, and in Denver, Colorado, and out in Portland, Oregon, and in Sacramento, California, KSTE, and we've got all these different stations that have either joined on or some of them have been with us for a while now. And we're very fortunate. We're very lucky, but we know we got to put in the work every day. James, let's see. James, great first name. Buck, the Michigan governor is starting to remind me of the lady who is a teacher in pink in the Harry Potter movie with the pink cats. She is a witch. She said she is going to fine the Ford plant in her state for social distancing violation when the president was there for not wearing his face mask the whole time. Shields high from WGY. Look at that. Someone. By the way, if you listen on one of our affiliates, please always feel free to put in your affiliates. We can give a little shout out to them on the air. WGY Albany, a great station. James, I would say I do not know the Harry Potter stuff. So, producer Mark, do you catch this reference?
Yes, that would be Professor Umbridge from I believe Harry Potter book number 5, The Chamber of Secrets.
There we go. He's ready to go with it.
Oh.
I still have people who try to convince me that I should read the Harry Potter books even at this point in life.
Yeah, it's so good. You should.
Yeah, see? Producer Mark is one of them. Maybe I'll have to do it. Brad. Hey, Buck. I'm behind enemy lines in California and thinking about moving. They have shut down all state parks, no camping or beaches until late June, and it keeps getting pushed out. Also, our schools have been out since this all started, and my third grader has had minimal contact with her teacher as the school fears they will lose funding if they teach outside of the guidelines. Now, with all the new CDC policies, the return in the fall is proposed to have 2 days a week at school and 3 days at home remote learning. Huh? My wife and I both work, and I've been out of work since March 12th. If our kids don't go to school 5 days a week, we will be forced to pay for daycare of some sort, and we'll have to do the teacher's job after we get off work. Red states are looking more attractive by the day. Brad, look, I was taking a peek over the weekend at just curious, just checking it out. I was looking at what does a nice little starter home go for in Austin, Texas these days? What does a nice little place with some land in Charleston, South Carolina, or in Savannah, Georgia? What does it look like, right? What kind of costs are we talking about here? So I don't think you're alone, my friend. I mean, I'm here in New York, a lifelong New Yorker, and I've loved this place even for all of its challenges and expense. But I think that this has pushed a lot of people too far in New York and in California. And now I always have to throw in Florida, too, because I promised producer Mark that Florida will be something we consider. Some of the Florida architecture is not as much my thing. That's the problem I have, producer Mark.
I get it. I like nice weather and no income tax.
I can't argue with that. But, a lot of red tiled floors in Florida, which is okay.
Yeah, I mean, nothing really you can't change, Buck.
That's probably
hire
true.
A good contractor.
Yeah, that's probably fair. I'd have to also become like if I was close enough to the water. I like swimming at the beach, but I might have to become a boat guy too.
That doesn't sound like a bad thing.
Yeah, no, boat would be fun. I always remember when they went after Marco Rubio for his boat. That was like he was living some lavish lifestyle or whatever. And I was just like, you're in Florida, man. You might as well get a boat of some kind. Even if it's a canoe or a kayak, you got to get a boat. Bobby, Buck, I got a question for you. Did your brother start the gluten-free bread company as a result of you having to deal with gluten-free products, or is it just a coincidence? That would be good brotherly love. Anyway, I listen to the show daily. I consider myself a team member. Bobby, you most certainly are a part of Team Buck. Tell producer Mark to smile for us. Oh, he smiles. Don't worry. He's fine. He's having fun. Don't ever worry about producer Mark. He's good. As for my brother, he was gluten-free before I was. So I thought that gluten-free, quite honestly, was kind of a fad, a trend. And then he was a believer in it for just health purposes. And I'm not going to lie to you guys. I kind of made fun of him a little bit sometimes for it. I was like, oh, gluten-free. Why don't you move to L.A. and get a pet therapist and drink wheatgrass shots all day? And then I got diagnosed with celiac disease maybe about 2 years later. So coincidence or cosmic fate or something? I don't know. You guys tell me. But he was gluten-free first. And the product line is called Susie's. It's SOOZY. And the stuff is, I mean, they've got bread now in Whole Foods. The food's, it's amazing. I mean, the donuts, the muffins, really high quality stuff. I love it. I mean, I eat it every morning. And again, it's my brother's company, so it's delicious. And I get to support a family member. That's going to be the show for today. Team, please do pass the buck. Also go to bucksexton.com, our website. See our stories posted throughout the day. Back tomorrow. Shields high.